The unbelievable untold story of Moses, the hidden secret behind the 10 plagues of Egypt. Few knew what truly happened that night in Egypt, when darkness fell and terror swept through the streets. It was a night of gasps and screams, a night long forgotten but never truly gone. The plague of the firstborn had struck with a vengeance, hitting the hearts of every family. Parents wept, their wails piercing through the stillness like arrows. They felt a dread unlike any other. In homes, candlelight flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls, where memories of laughter now hung heavy with grief. Moses stood firm, just outside the gates of Pharaoh's palace. The Hebrew prophet, cloaked in the mystery of his own past, knew the power he wielded. He had witnessed the burning bush, alive with divine fire, a secret he kept close to his chest. Egypt was a land of wonders, yet it now trembled under the weight of hardship and despair. The Nile, once a giver of life, turned to blood under Moses' command, sending shockwaves through the hearts of men. It was an act so profound that no one could have ever predicted the ancient waters would turn against them. With each subsequent plague, the air grew thicker with disbelief. Frogs leaped from the river like an ominous wave. Flies buzzed, relentless and biting, while locusts descended like a dark cloud, devouring every green thing in their path. Each miracle strange, grotesque, unfolded with a shattering impact. Did some whisper that the gods of Egypt had been dethroned? Was this retribution, or the beginning of something even greater? The night air crackled with questions unanswered. Fear had woven itself into the very fabric of certainty, the very streets brimmed with chaos as the cries of the Egyptians echoed through the corners of the city. The unexplainable boils and hail struck with a fierce indiscriminate rage. Dogs barked in fear, their senses heightened by the changes surrounding them. It was a divine reckoning, and yet, one thing lingered: why was a God of freedom choosing this particular moment to intervene in such wrath? The eyes of the world watched, but they remained blind to the ultimate plan unfolding. People gathered, murmuring as they dared to question the heavens. Can we truly believe this is the end? They wondered, their voices trembling. Each miracle was tied together by a thread of destiny. In the heart of this darkness lay hidden truths waiting to be revealed. And Moses, the reluctant leader, tightened his grip on his staff, feeling the weight of destiny. But what hidden truths awaited him? Was there a deeper reason behind the boils and darkness, the death and despair? What secrets wound their way through the tapestry of his life and these plagues? Each step led him closer, yet the mystery loomed larger than any man could comprehend. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. In the wake of the final calamity, the air hung heavy with the pall of mourning that blanketed Egypt. By dawn, the land lay hushed, save for the echoes of despair that lingered in the hearts of those who had lost so much. But amidst the heartbreak, a different kind of awakening stirred in the hearts of the Hebrew people. They, too, felt the weight of sorrow as they wept for their brethren lost, yet deep within them, an ember of hope began to flicker. Moses walked among them, his heart a tempest. The cries of the broken resonated with his soul, piercing through the veil of triumph he had momentarily grasped. Did victory come at such a price? Could liberation ever truly feel right when it was intertwined with suffering so profound? The words he had spoken, the miracles he had wrought, they had come as a direct command from the divine, yet the repercussions played out unpredictably within the lives he had sought to free. As the day unfolded, the Hebrew families prepared themselves for a journey they could scarcely fathom. Their homes, darkened by grief, also glimmered with anticipation as they donned their sandals and wrapped their belongings hastily. An exodus awaited, a promise echoed in their hearts, a promised land that loomed somewhere beyond the horizon. Gather, Moses commanded softly, his voice carrying an authority born from both terror and reverence. The people gathered around him, eyes filled with a mixture of hope and trepidation. He would lead them with a staff that had become an extension of his being, underscored by both divine power and personal sacrifice. Yet even as he addressed them, doubts crept into his mind like shadows creeping across the ground. What awaited them on this arduous path? Tonight, the Lord passed over us, he began with an intensity that demanded their attention. But understand, it is not mere deliverance we seek, it is covenant. Freedom must not come without a price, it is our responsibility to nurture and honor this gift bestowed upon us. His words hung in the balmy air, each syllable layered with profound meaning. The people listened, absorbing the depth of his call for unity and purpose. We are not just to escape bondage but to forge our future in fidelity to the one who delivered us. Yet as he spoke, an ancient fear lurked in the corners of their minds. Could they truly trust in this God who had allowed such suffering to unfold? The memories of the plagues loomed large, an indelible mark of divine wrath. What would their journey entail? Would they encounter further trials, and how might they stand together in moments of doubt? Questions swirled like windswept dust, and even as their feet aligned for the march, their hearts wrestled with uncertainty, but divine purpose, Moses thought, could rarely be understood in the present moment. The promise of a new beginning must be carried into the unknown with faith. As he felt the staff vibrate with the echoes of the past, he was reminded of the promise made to his ancestors. A legacy written not only in stone but also woven through the fabric of time. The people began to move tentatively at first, then gathering strength as they stepped into the unfolding dawn. The sun broke above the horizon, casting rays of light upon the path ahead, illuminating both hope and fear on their journey. Moses turned to face the multitude, his thoughts lingering on his own burden. The whispers of the Israelites mixed with a sense of divine calling, propelling him forward. Yet, even as they walked toward freedom, he pondered, where exactly was this path leading them? And how would the scars of their past shape them in the trials to come? As they trudged into the uncertain embrace of the wilderness, the heavy cloak of history lay draped over their shoulders. For in every step, questions remained, lingering like echoes in their hearts. What awaited them beyond the horizon, and how would they remember this pivotal moment in their journey of faith and survival? The sun stretched higher, the heat pressing down upon the Hebrew procession as they moved away from the land of their servitude. Moses, leading from the front, felt the weight of his people's expectation. Each footfall seemed to reverberate with the remnants of all they had endured. The freedom they sought felt almost surreal, a dream tinted with the colors of their suffering. As they walked, shadows of doubt mingled with the afternoon light. Families clutched their belongings tightly, stealing glances back at the land that had held both the roots of their bondage and the depth of their sorrow. Every face bore stories untold of parents lost, of long nights crying out for deliverance, of whispered prayers that clung to the walls of their hearts. "Where do we go now, Moses?" a voice broke through the murmurs, a young woman stepping forward, her brow furrowed with concern. "Will the Lord guide us, or are we wandering into the unknown?" Moses turned, taking in the apprehension etched across countless faces. This moment of vulnerability was as powerful as the miraculous plagues that had shaken Egypt. "We will follow the cloud by day and the fire by night, for the Lord will lead us," he answered, though doubts flickered in his own heart. Did he truly understand the path ahead, or were they simply stepping into the void? As the day wore on, the landscape began to change. The procession moved from the familiar flatlands of Egypt to a craggy terrain, the sun casting long shadows over jagged rocks that felt both daunting and alive with stories of the ancients. Whispers of the wilderness bore messages from a time long past, echoing tales of trials faced by others who had escaped tyranny. Night descended, bringing with it a chill that wrapped around them like a shroud. The fires were lit, illuminating the faces of weary travelers, their gazes flickering in the flames' dance. They gathered in small clusters, recounting their losses, sharing names lost in the darkness of Egypt. Yet, amid the sorrow, faith began to weave its way through their words. Moses stood apart, seeking counsel in the night sky, dotted with stars that spoke of promises both ancient and new. He breathed deeply, allowing the cool air to fill him. In that stillness, a whisper stirred within him, almost imperceptible yet insistent, a reminder of purpose woven tightly with the threads of obligation. Remember, Moses, the voice of memory urged, you are not merely leading them out but towards something greater. As the crackling of the fire wove around them, he recalled the stories passed down from generation to generation, the covenant made with their forefather Abraham, the vision of a land flowing with milk and honey. Had they not suffered enough to embrace that legacy? Yet, as the flames flickered, casting dancing shadows against the rocky faces, he felt a heaviness settle upon him. What if they were to falter? What if despair took hold once more? He had seen the hearts of men sway with fear, trembling at the crossroad of doubt. What if they question me? What if they long to return? He pondered, his faith tested in the stillness of the night. That it was then, as though the very heavens conspired to offer clarity, that he heard a distant sound that stirred the air. The rhythmic beating of drums, blending with the soft rustle of the nighttime breeze, as if the earth itself called forth spirits of the past. He traced it back to the songs he had learned in his youth, hymns of longing and deliverance. But now, those sounds summoned not just remembrance, but hope. Echoes from before the plagues, songs of a people believing in brighter days, gather around. He called out, his voice breaking through the tension, drawing his people closer. As they huddled around the fire, embers glowing like shared dreams, he recited the ancient melodies, allowing the spirit of his ancestors to fill the air. It swirled around them, igniting a determination that had dimmed beneath the weight of their trials. Yet even as the night deepened into a chorus of voices, Moses remained keenly aware of a larger truth: the journey before them, while critical to their survival, was also fraught with challenges that would seek to unravel their collective spirit. Were they ready to embrace faith as their compass? In this wilderness where uncertainty thrived, how might their experiences mold the future they sought? With those questions etched into his heart, he looked up into the stars, seeking answers hidden in the vast cosmos. What awaited them in the days to come, and would the hymn of their deliverance continue to resonate in the hearts of those who walked beside him? The first light of dawn broke over the horizon, scattering the darkness and illuminating the weary faces of the Hebrews. Each eye flickered with the remnants of sleep, but the promise of a new day stirred restlessness among them. Hope mingled with unease, as thoughts of what lay beyond the rocky shelter filled their minds. Moses felt their anticipation, an electric current that both inspired him and made him question his own resolve. "Gather your things, for we must resume our journey," Moses urged, his voice firm yet kind. The people moved as if in unison, each footstep an echo of their shared determination. Yet whispers ached beneath the surface, weaving through clusters of families. "Where will we find water?" one elder lamented, frowning with concern. "What if we perish in this desolation, far from the familiar rivers of Egypt?" Moses heard the tremor in his voice and felt the churning doubt within himself. He threw a glance toward the horizon, where no sign of sustenance met his gaze. "Have faith," he responded softly, though uncertainty gnawed at his heart. "The Lord has led us thus far, he will provide." Yet as they journeyed, the sun rose higher, pressing down against the backs of the weary. The rocks underfoot seemed to grow sharper, and with each step, exhaustion gripped the people's spirits. Tension mounted, coalescing into anxiety that soon spilled over. Why did we ever leave? Better the chains of Egypt than the uncertainty of this wilderness, a man spoke, his voice thick with desperation as he glanced toward the rear of the procession. Murmurs of agreement rustled through the crowd, each word like a stone thrown into the well of Moses's thoughts. That he stopped, turning slowly to face his people. The weight of leadership bore down upon him, and he felt the tension coil in the air. "I understand your pain," Moses began, searching for the words that could guide them. "Yet remember what we have endured. Remember the afflictions, the tears, and the deliverance we have witnessed." But doubt lingered in the shadows of their hearts, stubborn as the stones that lined their path. The young woman who had first spoken now took a step forward again, her resolve still flickering. "But Moses, what if we are lost? What if we wander forever in this unforgiving land without promise?" As he gazed into her earnest eyes, his spirit stirred with something deeper than fear or doubt. Through the uncertainty came a realization, a revelation that urged him to delve deeper into the legacy they bore. "There is purpose in our wandering," he replied, his voice gaining strength. "It is a journey to forge us anew, to shape our covenant with God, and to define who we are destined to become. Each trial is a step toward that promise. As the words settled among them, a hush fell, interrupted only by the distant sound of water flowing. A cacophony of reactions rippled through the crowd as they halted, eyes widening in disbelief. The river below, nestled among the rocks, was real there, glistening under the midday sun, offering a source of relief. Laughter bubbled forth, and even the most hardened souls allowed themselves to express wonder, yet amidst the joy, Moses felt a tug at his heart. Was this merely coincidence, or did the unseen hand of God steer their steps? He approached the water's edge, letting the coolness kiss his skin while he pondered the mysteries unfolding around them. Why did the Lord lead us here? He whispered to the air, hoping for a spark of clarity. What lies beyond this river? What lessons await in this desolate expanse? Are we truly ready for what is to come? As the water flowed steadily, its current echoed the uncertainty of their journey. With each ripple, a new question emerged: how could liberation lead to deeper understanding and faith? Were the struggles they faced the very threads that would bind them closer to their divine purpose? With the congregation replenished and spirits lifted, they drank from the bounty before them, yet the restless curiosity lingered in Moses's heart. Amid the glimmer of hope, deeper truths shimmered beneath the surface, waiting to be unearthed. What revelations would the wilderness hold for their nation, and would they uncover the true strength bound within the struggles of the past? As the echoes of laughter faded and the people quenched their thirst, a renewed energy surged through the camp. The Hebrew families took solace by the riverbank, splashing cool water over their weary souls, while children danced and played, their joy a sweet counterpoint to the earlier tensions. Moses stood apart, his gaze fixed on the shimmering surface of the water that reflected both the sky and the concerns bundling together in his heart. The recent murmurs of doubt had left an imprint on him, and now, in the serene embrace of this cool oasis, he pondered deeper questions about their journey and purpose. You have brought us this far, Lord, he murmured softly, almost as if seeking an answer from the realm above. His mind turned towards the memory of the plagues, the cries of the Egyptians, the smoke of sacrifice, the final awakenings that had freed them from bondage. Each hardened heart, each sacrosanct denial of suffering, played vividly in his mind. Yet what have we truly learned? Have we only escaped, or are we being called to something more profound? As thoughts swirled like leaves in a tempest, an elder approached Moses, calling him from his reverie. Moses, the children speak of miracles, the old man said, his voice rich with the weight of years. They recall the wonders of our deliverance. Is this water our miracle? Moses turned to the elder, the gravity of their context hanging heavy in the air. A miracle indeed, but what lies beneath the surface? In our hours of despair and desperation, do we see the hand of God or simply coincidence? The elder scratched his beard thoughtfully. Perhaps miracles are the moments when divine and human touch, both in hardship and in joy. It is in the journey that we unveil the purposes behind our struggles. Moses nodded, instinctively agreeing, yet he felt an urgency to understand further. As the river flowed steadily, it drew forth memories of the Nile, the lifeblood of Egypt that had once drowned the Hebrew infants, a duality of blessings turned burdens. It is the same river, transformed by God's intent, he reflected aloud, feeling the complexity of their heritage intertwine with their fate. Water bears life and death, just as our past brought suffering but also liberation. The elder gazed at him, realization dawning. Then we must seek a new understanding of our liberation. What does it mean to be free if we do not confront the shadows of our past? Moses felt a tug in his spirit as the elder spoke. What had they truly escaped? Were they merely a people freed from shackles, or were they becoming a nation molded by scars, destined to learn from both their triumphs and their trials? The whispers of the former enslaved were still echoing in their hearts, calling them toward deeper reconciliation. With renewed purpose, Moses called the people to gather around the river once more. Children of Israel, let us rejoice in this miracle, he declared, inviting them to share their stories of deliverance and pain. One by one, they rose to speak, recounting tales of loss and resilience, of days in Egypt and nights under the stars. But amidst the outpouring of their collective memories, an unsettling question lingered in the air, creeping through hearts enlivened by hope. Will we ever truly escape the darkness that clings to our souls, or is our exodus just the beginning of an even greater struggle? As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting shadows on the faces gathered by the river, Moses felt the weight of their past whispering into the future. Each voice added a layer to the tapestry they were weaving, a story not yet complete, laden with complexity, yet echoing a latent promise. Having tasted the waters of survival, they were now confronted with deeper truths. What more must they endure to understand the fullness of freedom? The river flowed on, and with it rose a myriad of questions yet unanswered, tantalizing glimpses of lessons still to be discovered. What awaited them in the wilderness? What would they unravel about their covenant with God as they traversed through challenges yet unseen? As the sun sank low, casting hues of orange and purple across the horizon, an unexpected stillness enveloped the camp. The stories, heartfelt and raw, filled the air like a fragrant offering, but Moses could sense that the moment was not yet complete. There was a thread yet to be woven into this tapestry of memories. Amongst the gathered, a young woman, Miriam, sister to Moses, stepped forward. Her voice, though soft, carried with it the weight of conviction. I have kept our father's words close, every song and story of our people from the days of our enslavement. They whisper in the winds, reminding us that our trials were not for naught. She drew in a breath, and her eyes sparkled with urgency. We must acknowledge the lives lost, yes, but we must also remember the promises whispered in the night by the ancient ones. The God of our ancestors is not merely a liberator, he is a promise keeper. Moses looked toward Miriam, the depth of her wisdom provoking contemplation. What promise do you speak of? He asked, his curiosity piqued. The promise that in our suffering, we would find a new identity. That we are not simply the remnants of bondage but are destined for something greater. Miriam's voice rose, emboldened by the gathering twilight. These stories of struggle, they are our inheritance, our strength. We carry within us the weight of our past, but also the seeds of a profound future. The river, ever present beside them, began to ripple gently, responding to Miriam's passionate plea. It was as if the very essence of their journey stirred beneath the surface, urging them to dive deeper into the waters of understanding. Tell us more, Miriam, a voice from the crowd chimed in, and soon others urged her on. What must we learn from our forefathers? Miriam continued, sharing how the tales of Abraham and Isaac revealed a divine covenant forged in faith, a promise of land, generations, and descendants as numerous as the stars. These tales are alive within us, she declared. We have escaped Egypt, but the true journey is understanding our covenant with God as we move forward. Liberation is not a destination, it is a path filled with purpose. Moses' heart swelled as he listened to Miriam speak. He could see in the eyes of his people that her words ignited something within them, a flicker of understanding that they were not just fleeing from but was also heading towards something profoundly significant. Yet, a shadow lurked in the back of his mind, shrouded in the same mystery that had surrounded their deliverance. But how do we navigate the wilderness that lies ahead? He pondered aloud. What if the trials we face are not simply tests, but lessons that reveal our true nature? At that moment, a shroud of silence fell upon the crowd. The air thickened as they considered the weight of his words. Could the wilderness bring forth not only despair but revelation? It was a question too vast for answers, echoing within each heart and spinning visions of what lay beyond the horizon. As darkness began to envelop them, the flickering flames of their fires danced like the uncertainty of their path. Moses felt the stirring in his spirit. There were mysteries entwined in their destiny, yet to be unveiled. He recalled the plagues, the darkness that had descended upon Egypt, the fear it had instilled. But could this darkness reveal light for them as well? In the stillness of the evening, as stars glimmered overhead, Moses attempted to grasp the full weight of their exodus. If the past has shaped us, then what lessons do we still need to unveil? His heart echoed with uncertainties, and around him, voices began to murmur their hopes and fears, creating a sacred dialogue filled with yearning. Can we unite our hearts to find strength in our struggle before the storm that awaits? One voice asked, hesitation lacing their tone. What if the wilderness is our teacher, guiding us to the essence of freedom? Another pondered aloud. Moses recognized that their journey was but nascent, wrapped in layers of history and emerging purpose. The waters of hope and fear intertwined, beckoning them to trust the unseen hand that had led them thus far. And as thoughts poured forth, a truth remained suspended in the night air, radiating uncertainty yet simmering with the promise of discovery. Deep within the beating hearts of the gathered people lay the question that lingered: what does it mean to be free when shackled by the lessons of the past? As they sat by the river, stars shining above, they felt the duality of choice and consequence, inching closer to understanding not just who they were, but who they were meant to become. As the stars twinkled like scattered diamonds in the deep velvet sky, Moses felt a heavy weight settle upon his shoulders, a mantle woven from the threads of their shared history and the unknown future looming ahead. The night air shimmered with an ethereal quiet, yet within him, a storm brewed. The very nature of their liberation seemed to beg for an exploration that lay beyond the comforts of familiarity. Drawing on the strength of Miriam's words, he felt compelled to speak once more, recalling how each of the plagues had unveiled not just the steadfastness of their oppressor but also the resilience of their spirit. "We witnessed the turmoil of Egypt," he began, his voice steady yet saturated with reverence. "Each plague was not merely a judgment upon our captors but a revelation about who we are, a people aching for authenticity amidst oppression." The gathered audience shifted closer, their breaths held in anticipation. "The waters that turned to blood were a profound signal," Moses continued. "They told us that life would be challenging, and the sweetness of freedom often tasted bitter at first. But did we not prevail as we crossed the Red Sea? Did we not emerge triumphant in newness when the waters swallowed the very system that sought to ensnare us?" Miriam, buoyed by her brother's fervor, interjected, "But there may have been a hidden promise even within the darkest of our trials. What if each plague was a turning point for us as well? A call to acknowledge our suffering while recognizing the God who walked among us." Moses nodded, considering the breadth of her insight. He recalled that grueling night when death had thrust its chilling hand into every Egyptian household, while his people's homes remained untouched. There had been a palpable distinction, an awakening, a calling that resonated through the blood of the lambs. It was not only a moment of sorrow, but also a beginning of divine protection, a hidden secret veiled in pain that would echo through generations. "There is a lesson embedded within each plague," Moses asserted, his eyes sweeping over the assembly. "Their purpose was to awaken our spirit, to remind us that liberation demands a confrontation with darkness, both outside and within. We must embrace our story, each tragedy weaving into the fabric of our resilience, for through these experiences, we learn to trust Him who leads us." The murmurs of agreement rose like the gentle rustle of leaves in the night. It was a truth that lingered at the edges of their consciousness, one that intertwined their collective voices into a chorus of shared struggles and aspirations. Yet, beneath that shared acceptance lay a distinct uneasy fear of what lay ahead and the unvoiced question of whether they could indeed rise above their scars. "Perhaps we are meant to remember not just our deliverance, but the cost at which it came," one elder spoke up, his voice echoing concern. "The scars etched into our hearts are reminders of the battles fought. If we are to survive the wilderness, we must look upon our past not as a shackle, but as a crucible, testing our very essence." A stillness again enveloped them, the darkness deepening as their reflections wove themselves through silences and whispers. They pondered this invisible thread connecting their shared sufferings, held tightly by the tapestry of divine interventions. Moses felt the stirring of recognition in his spirit, the thought flashing like brilliant lightning in the stillness: is it possible that within the trials we face in the wilderness, there lies a revelation waiting to emerge? Does the struggle not serve as the forging fire of our identity, urging us to evolve into what we were always destined to be? As dawn began to caress the horizon with tentative hues of gold, a question took root in the hearts of everyone gathered, resonating within their souls: are we ready to embrace the wilderness, not only as a challenge but as a sacred teacher unveiling the hidden truths of our destiny? So they remained in thoughtful silence, contemplating how far they had come and the distance they still had yet to travel. As the first light of dawn kissed the camp, the air grew thick with anticipation, for the people had gathered not just to reflect, but to prepare for the journey that lay ahead. The flickering flames of their fires mirrored their heartbeats, steady yet quickening as hope and dread intertwined within their souls. Moses felt a sacred duty to guide his people, to speak boldly of their fears, as this next chapter demanded clarity. "Let us not forget," he implored, raising his hand for silence, that we are at the precipice of a transformation unlike any we have known. The moment we step into the wilderness is not merely a flight from Egypt but a venture into the unknown, a passageway deeper than our physical surroundings. A wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd as they pondered the newness of their path, the wilderness looming like a shadow, both daunting and mysterious. Each plague that visited Egypt stripped away layers of falsehood, revealing the naked truth of oppression. Moses continued, his voice now rising to a fervor. But I urge you to consider, what hidden truths does our wilderness promise? It may teach us about our own fragility, our bonds with one another, and the divine presence that navigates through our struggles. Miriam stepped forward, her eyes glistening like morning dew. What if our fears are not merely barriers but doors to deeper insights? Each step we take forward can also lead inward, guiding us to reflect upon our identity as children of promise, rather than remnants of slavery. After the trials we endured, we must now inquire, who do we wish to become? As she spoke, the people began to grasp the weight of her words. The wilderness could serve as both a teacher and a companion, holding the potential for revelation, but also the haunting echoes of their past. An elder, trembling yet fierce, added, "Yet, we must be wary. A wilderness can assist in our growth or haunt us with memories. If we are attacked by despair, how will we hold fast to the promise of deliverance? Will we not need faith as our compass? What if subsequent trials await us, just as Egypt's dark grasp still lingers in our hearts?" A gentle hush fell among the assembly, the questions posed echoed deeply within. Each faced their inner turmoil, the memories that swirled like sand in the wind, unwilling to settle. The scars, like fragile whispers, reminded them not only of battles lost but of a collective heritage of hope and survival. Moses sensed the swirling energy amongst them, a tempest of emotions. Perhaps the very essence of freedom was a double-edged sword. Let us draw upon the strength of those who have walked before us. Our ancestors survived in the face of unfathomable odds. Each triumph fueled an unquenchable flame within their spirits, possibilities soaring even higher with every setback. Within this moment of solidarity, the people began to share stories, tales imbued with pain and joy, woven together like a tapestry adorned with both light and shadow. They spoke of nocturnal whispers of their ancestors, of the ancient promises given, resonating softly in the night air. Each narrative cajoled new seeds of courage and resilience into being, yet as they shared, a deeper question lingered, unsaid yet palpable: what if we carry the burdens of Egypt within us? How do we then step forward? How can we disentangle ourselves from those chains that may not be visible yet feel as heavy as the stones we once labored under? The sun climbed higher, illuminating their faces with the gentlest light, yet the shadows of uncertainty loomed still. Moses' heart weighed heavily with the duality of hope and fear. The journey he envisioned was not merely a flight into the wilderness, but a passage into a deeper understanding of themselves through pain and joy, through fear and faith. As they moved closer together, drawn by shared faith, an unspoken resolve emerged in the air. They were a tapestry still growing, a narrative each moment shaping anew. The wilderness awaited, and with it, the possibility of profound revelations. As the people readied themselves, the question lingered even as courage filled their hearts: are we brave enough to traverse this wilderness, to encounter the hidden stories within us waiting to be uncovered? The sun soared higher in the azure sky, stirring the air with warmth that promised both challenge and revelation. As they began to march towards the wilderness, a hushed anticipation enveloped the crowd. The people, once bound by chains, now took their first collective steps into uncertain freedom, leaving behind not only the tangible remnants of Egypt but also the weight that clung to their hearts like a dark cloak. Moses walked at the forefront, feeling the sacred undercurrent of their journey pulse beneath their feet. Each step resonated with layers of historian echo of struggle, yet a whisper of hope. He was acutely aware of his sacred responsibility, a shepherd guiding his flock through the wilderness that sought to reshape them, just as the plagues had reshaped Egypt. With every passing moment, the landscape shifted from the familiar corridors of oppression to the untamed wilderness, where the ground beneath them was rough and the paths uncertain. Yet Moses felt that this very uncertainty would unveil deeper truths. As he glanced back at the multitude, he could see familiar faces twisted by vulnerability and guarded strength, each one revealing their own approaches to the unknown before them. Children of promise, Moses called out, as we tread upon this sacred ground, let us remember every wilderness carries within it the seeds of revelation. Not only will we confront the elements, but we must journey inward, letting unanswered questions become our guiding light. What shall the wilderness teach us that Egypt has kept buried? Quiet murmurs drifted through the assembly, each heart grappling with the echoes of pain and hope that filled the air. A young woman stepped forth, her voice trembling yet resolute. Will we have the courage to confront our pasts as we step into the embrace of the unknown? What if the wilderness reveals not the strength of our faith, but the fragility of our spirit? A deep silence fell among the people, reflecting their collective introspection. The wilderness was indeed a vast expanse, but it also reflected their inner landscapes, unfolding fears mingled with profound possibilities. As more voices joined, the discourse broadened, weaving together the communal fabric of grief, identity, and aspiration. Miriam, alongside Moses, raised her voice again. We must be aware, though we possess wings of hope, without faith, they may falter. The wilderness may challenge us as never before and show us the concealed shadows that still hold us captive. We must be prepared to engage with that darkness, and refuse to let it define our journey. Her words reached deep into the hearts of those gathered. They were no longer merely fleeing a land strewn with loss, but were also summoned to embark upon a path of profound exploration. They spoke of dreams they felt bound to let go and aspirations that beckoned them beyond the horizon. With every sharing, the stories they told began knitting a larger tapestry of understanding, binding them not just by choice but through shared history and intentions. Suddenly, from the crowd, a voice pierced through. An elder bearing a deep wisdom that came from years of survival and reflection spoke. We have tasted bitterness, will we now embrace sweetness? What if the true journey lies not just in the land we hope to reach, but in the hearts we are to transform? Can we shift from being a people whom oppression shaped, to a people who shape a new destiny? His question hung like fruit ripe for picking, drawing forth nods and murmurs, each listener wrestling with the implications of the narrative unfolding. A promise lay in the uncertainty, one that demanded a radical unlearning and relearning of who they were meant to become. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows upon the path ahead, Moses found himself contemplating the intricacies of the wilderness. It was not a mere backdrop but a profound teacher, challenging them to confront not only the challenges they might face but also the inner battles that resided within. As the evening drew near, wrapping them in the grace of dusk, a silence enveloped the group, a sacred pause between breaths. Each heart held a question, a reflection waiting to emerge into the light of understanding. Are we ready to embrace not just the promise of tomorrow, but the unfolding story of our lives, wherever that story may lead us? As the last light of day faded into the cloak of night, the camp reverberated with the echoes of unspoken questions and fervent musings. Moses stood center stage, feelings brewing within him like a tempest. He could sense the friction of doubt and faith merging together in that moment, a crucible where the fire of their shared history could forge their new identity. The wilderness around them hummed with life, a living entity that promised both challenges and revelations. Between the shadows of their past and the promise of their future lay a path not easily traversed, yet it glimmered with whispers of hope. The potential for transformation was palpable, aching to burst forth from the soil of their trials like tender shoots from the cracks of hardened earth. Moses felt the urgency of leadership surge within him, urging him to draw forth the lessons whispered to him by the winds. We walk not merely to escape the burdens of Egypt, he proclaimed, his voice strong yet gentle. We walk to discover who we are meant to be. In our leaving, we carry the weight of our past, but we also hold the torch of our destiny. Our unshackled hands must learn to mold a new legacy. The people stirred, uncertainty and curiosity mingling in their hearts. They gathered closer, listening intently, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames of their evening fire, shadows dancing along the soft contours of their features. Moses continued, in the midst of our new journey, we may unearth the specters of fear that linger in our hearts. Remember the plagues? Each one unveiled a deeper truth about ourselves and our world. Each miracle of deliverance came with a cost and a lesson. Tonight, I ask you, what lessons shall this wilderness teach us? What revelations do we seek? Among the crowd, a wise elder spoke, perhaps the wilderness holds the truth that our liberation isn't solely physical. It is a spiritual metamorphosis, demanding introspection and vulnerability. Are we prepared to face our shadows? Are we ready to wrestle with the remnants of Egypt that still cling to our souls? A murmur of agreement coursed through the assembly, hands clenched and brows furrowed. The challenge laid bare was heavy, yet an ember of resolve began to ignite within them all. Moses felt a current of energy build as he met the gazes around him, uncertainty but also a shimmering joy, the thrill of possibility. Yes. We shall dance with our fears and forge a path through the wilderness, trusting that each trial is a stepping stone toward who we are called to be. We are chosen to bear witness not just to pain, but to promise. As he spoke, the atmosphere crackled with revelation. It was in recognizing the weight of the past that they might learn to bear the potential of their future. Together, they rekindled hope, a new covenant to navigate the wilderness not as victims but as victors emerging from the shadows of their history. A collective voice rose in agreement, stories of loss turned toward aspirations of transformation flowed through the air like a gentle breeze. We are not our past, but we are shaped by it, declared Miriam, her eyes shining with purpose. We carry within us not only the scars of oppression but the dreams of a vibrant future. With her words, the flames surged high, infusing them with strength. The people began to embrace their unique narratives, sharing visions of the futuria land of promise, love, and unity. They began to visualize a community forged in resilience, woven together by their stories. As the night deepened, a stillness took hold, a divine whisper settling upon them like a blanket. It was then that Moses felt the unmistakable presence of the Almighty surrounding them, an overwhelming sensation drawing them closer. Let us remember, he declared with renewed vigor, we are not alone on this journey. Each step forward will be guided by his promise. The wilderness is not merely a battleground but a sacred space for revelation. We will not only reclaim our freedom but also discover the depths of our being. The people tightened the circle, embracing one another as they brewed a communal sense of bravery. A large ripple of acceptance washed over them, washing away the remnants of doubt that had hung heavy like morning mist. They stood resolute, ready to step into their unknown, committed to uncovering not just the freedom of their bodies but the liberation of their spirits. As dawn approached, a collective sense of unity illuminated their paths. They could hear the whisper of destiny in the rustling leaves, the promise of a new beginning brewing like the first light of day. They emerged from the cool shadows of night, invigorated for the journey ahead, and so, the Hebrews moved forward not just as a people freed from bondage, but as individuals awakened to the richness of their shared faith. The wilderness awaited, a sacred avenue for transformation, and together they would reclaim their identity not just in escape but as pioneers shaping the world with every step. With hearts aligned and spirits courageous, they marched into the radiant embrace of dawn, the sun casting light upon the horizon, a symbol of the journey to uncover divine purpose, an invitation to step boldly into the revelation of who they truly were meant to be. Thus, the story of their liberation became not merely a tale of the past but a living testament of faith, emergence, and endless possibility, a promise echoed through generations yet to come.